it's nice to be able to offer these for actually for Root Institute. I have a very close connection with the Institute, as I worked there for a few years. So I'm very happy to support that center in Bodh Gaya, very important and holy place where the Buddha manifested enlightenment there in Bodh Gaya. So yeah, very happy to support the center in any way. So we will have 5 weeks together, and I hope that you all join me for those 5 weeks. And it will be a progressive, gradual work where we will be tapping on calming and focusing the mind. And then we will be also covering how to transform it, how to transform that mind. So the sessions will be particularly targeted to different goals when we talk about transforming the mind, and I will explain, okay? But they will be quite similar as in structure. So the structure will be the same, okay? So today, because it's our first session, I will give a little bit of introduction information about what we will be doing. And then we will be actually starting with the session per se. So each session will have like 3 main components. So the first one will be about calming the mind through practicing what we call calm abiding. This practice in Sanskrit is called shamatha. Okay, so it's just a meditation focused on certain objects to try to concentrate the mind. Okay, so for this particular course, we will use 2 objects for concentrating the mind. 2 objects. Okay, for the first sessions, we will use the abdomen as an object of focus and concentration. For the last sessions, we will be using the nostrils. Okay, so that will be the first part of the session. Then we will have a little bit of discussion. Each session I will be explaining something different, and at the end of the session we will be doing another meditation, but it's more reflective meditation, or sometimes we call them analytical meditations. And these meditations are more to be able to generate some sort of experience and insights. Okay, all right. So with the aspect of calming the mind and focusing the mind, as I explained, we will be using those 2 objects. Then we'll have discussions. And then with the aspect of transforming the mind, okay, for today, we will have a general discussion. For the next 4 sessions, what we will be using is what we call the 4 immeasurables, and I will introduce them today because it's more like an introductory session, this one, right? So these 4 immeasurables are based on this mind that wants to open itself and explore itself, but so that it can be of best benefit to others. So the 4 immeasurables are based to trying to develop altruism and a good heart and love and compassion and equanimity. And I will explain more what they are. Okay, so also I think it would be really, really good, really, really important for people to log into the Google Classroom, and that I'm aware that Shanti have sent the link. So Google Classroom is a really friendly user platform where I will be sharing materials to enhance the information that we have been sharing, and particularly for each one of you to keep on doing these practices throughout the week. Yeah, because if we just meet once a week and then we are trying to calm the mind and focus it, just in one session a week is utterly impossible. So when we come together to learn how to do the things. But then my idea, that I think it would be really beneficial for each one of you, is that you actually continue the practice and try to develop it on your own. Okay, so when we come together is for you to learn. Then those instructions are in Google Classroom that you can easily log into. And so in Google Classroom, I will also be giving you a lot of extra things that you can do to be able to develop your practice of mind transformation even further. Okay, so when it comes to focusing the mind, concentrating the mind, transforming it, it's a process, it's a practice, and it takes time. Yeah, and it takes perseverance, and it takes patience. Yeah, all the things. Yeah, when talking about the mind, it's not a quick fix. Yeah, so it's something that needs to be put into practice. And so that's why I'm encouraging each one of you to keep on the practice every day. It's like, think that these 5 weeks that we are going to have together is a bit of a retreat. Yeah, a bit like that. Okay, and I will explain how to do them as well. But just think, okay, I'm going to get into my Zoom sessions, or if I'm going to listen to them later on YouTube, that's great. But try to make a little bit of a commitment that throughout the week you will continue the practice. So every week you will be you will be clearer and clearer on what the practice looks like, and you will have more experience of it. So each session, we will also, at the very end, will have some minutes for questions if anyone has them, right? And so if you have doubts, then we can ask them then. Also in Google Classroom, you can leave your questions if you're not attending in these live Zoom sessions, okay? So the idea of the continuing your practice throughout the week is for you to actually make the most of this course and to improve your practice little by little. Yeah, little by little. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So I will explain a little bit how we are going to start each session, and you can also start each of your sessions every day from tomorrow. Okay, so the practices that I would suggest you to do from tomorrow are this practice of calming the mind, and you can do them in the morning, just 20 minutes. Okay, so I'm going to start introducing that practice, okay, right now. And for that, also there's a bit of a structure. Okay, so when we want to learn to meditate, it's really good to know how to do it. So structure is good. Okay, so I will introduce. So the first thing that we do normally is we try to pay attention to our posture. I'm going to give you now, the structure, and then we will go a little bit further into those details. Okay, so it's good to have a good posture. Yeah, posture means having a good, kind of like a good seating situation, so you can train your mind easier. If your body is well seated and is comfortable, then it's going to be easier for your mind to focus. Okay, so one of the first things that we pay attention to when we try to learn to meditate is our posture. Then the second thing is that we try to generate a good motivation. It's really good to be really clear of what our intentions are when we do things, and particularly when we endeavor into spiritual practices, so intention. Then we try to become very present into the practice. Then we try to neutralize the mind from the two main obstacles of meditation to try to concentrate the mind, which are distraction and forgetfulness. Yeah, so those are the two main obstacles. So we try to neutralize the mind from those. Then we go into the actual focus, which is we try to apply mindfulness and attention into our object. That for this session will be the abdomen. And then we try to dedicate the merits. Okay, and I'll explain what all these things are. So that is the structure that we will be using throughout the whole course to try to concentrate the mind, to develop a good, solid, well, as we can, right? But a good, solid, serviceable mind that can remain in its object, free of these two obstacles of distraction and forgetfulness. Okay. So now the question is, why do we put so much focus on that? Well, it's probably because of the benefits that it brings. Okay. And so you will probably agree with me when I'm giving courses that are more, with open public. We have discussions, but I guess that in these kind of situations, we just do our best, right? So I normally will ask people, what do you think the benefits of a calm, focused mind are, right? And probably you will all agree that it just brings more inner happiness, more emotional stability, emotional intelligence. It makes us less reactive. Yeah, it opens the heart, it brings insight. Yeah, so that's more in a mental level. Even in the physical level has all these benefits. When we have a calm and focus and stable mind, it has an impact on our lifestyle. Yeah, so we probably start out eating more healthy, probably will start exercising a little bit more. Yeah, so even in a physical level, it will affect our nervous system, our lymphatic system, our, our cardiac system. Yeah, everything becomes more in tune and aligned. Yeah, because the mind, is more in tune and aligned, and the body and mind, they affect each other. Yeah. Okay. So of course, if you have a healthy mind, you will probably have a healthy body. With a healthy body, you will probably also be able to develop your mind further. But because we are we're followers of Tibetan Buddhism. Tibetan Buddhism, it's the whole system is to develop the mind, and we will talk about why. Yeah. Okay, so that's why we do these practices on trying to concentrate the mind and focus it. Yeah, and to try to have a little bit more of that inner mental stability, balance, and equilibrium. Yeah. Okay, so let's start with going into the details of this structure that I gave you. Okay, so for this practice of trying to concentrate the mind with this structure, we mentioned being posture very important. So what does that mean? Is that we try to develop some sort of mindfulness of your body while you're sitting. So a few important points to remember are to try to have your spine really straight. Yeah, a straight, nice spine, and you open your chest and you try to pull down your shoulders back and down. Yeah, to keep a straight back. Okay, so if you're doing this course while you are sitting on a chair, that's fine. Maybe you need to bring your bum a little bit forward so your back is not touching the back of the chair. So you separate a little bit from the chair so you can actually sit straight. Okay. Now, we try to align the neck with the spine. So we pay attention to the neck as well. The eyes are not completely closed, but we allow them to open a little bit. Yeah. And we try to place our hands in a comfortable posture, but normally we just put our right hand on top of the left and our thumbs are touching like that. And that is placed on your lap. Okay, and you can cross your legs if you're sitting on a chair, and cross your legs so your legs are, just parallel to each other. Your feet are both touching the floor and they're parallel to each other. Okay, so that's a little bit about the posture. Okay, so then we talked about trying to develop a motivation, yeah, an altruistic motivation. I will explain why. So motivation means what sort of aim you have for that practice. Yeah. Motivation means what is the direction that you want to give it? What is the intention behind your action? Okay. So what happens is that we have many thousands of billions of intentions every day. We might not be even aware of them. Okay. But every single action of body, speech, and mind, it has an intention behind it. It has like an initial kind of like spark that start that action, that puts things in your mind into movement. Okay. So in Tibetan Buddhism, we pay very close attention to these intentions, because based on these intentions, we will create what we call the causes of our suffering or the causes of our happiness. Okay. So this is the part that you want to pay attention to. Okay. So if you start an action, a mental action, an intention, yeah, with the motivation of of harming others or harming yourself, or anything that has some sort of negative connotation, yeah, because that negative intention has been developed, then the result of that, it will probably be undesirable and in the nature of suffering. Yeah, because the intention in itself was negative, you see, so the result in itself probably will be negative. Okay, there's a lot of grace in between, but in general it works like that. So then, if your intention of performing an action, okay, of body, speech, and mind, yeah, it's positive, is wholesome, is altruistic, is loving, then most probably the result of that action will be desirable. Yeah, it will be in the nature of happiness, because it's a positive. Yeah, it's a positive beginning. Okay, so it's very similar to like a field. A field. Yeah, if you plant a seed, yeah, that belongs to a poisonous plant, you plant it and all the conditions are ready, yeah, that plant, that poisonous plant will germinate, and poisonous fruit will come from it, and anyone that would eat it will die from it, right? If the poison is hard enough. The same with if you have a seed of a beautiful rose, or I don't know what flowers you guys like, yeah, if you plant that, yeah, and that germinates with the right conditions, then you'll have a result, yeah, that it will bring pleasure. If it's a beautiful fruit, you will eat it, it will be wholesome, it will give you strength and energy. Yeah, can you see that? So intentions are really important. So because all of us, we will talk more about equanimity on the next session, but all of us, we want to have some sort of happiness. We don't want to have any suffering. Then that's why we pay attention to our intentions, because the causes of suffering and the causes of happiness, they come from within. Yeah, they're not external. Yeah, they come from within. They're based on your intentions. Okay. Of course, we can have some sort of like satisfaction from external objects, of course, but you might have all the objects in the world that you want, and you still might be dissatisfied within you. You might still be feeling empty or lost. Yeah. So the causes of suffering and the causes of happiness, they come from within the mind. They're based on what are the intentions behind your actions. Okay, and so that's why every time that we will do a session, we will try to generate a really good intention. Yeah, and so in Tibetan Buddhism, the best intention that you can have, the most altruistic intention that you can have, is what we call bodhicitta. Bodhicitta. You might have heard this word before, okay? But for those who haven't, yeah, bodhicitta is a mind, is a primary mind, yeah, that really wants to master itself. It really wants to improve itself into its most perfected state, perfected good qualities, because one wants to achieve enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. Yeah? So this is the most altruistic, most powerful intention that we can have. Okay. So what is enlightenment? Well, it's a state of mind, yeah, where a being has perfected all good qualities and has completely eliminated all the negative ones. Just to keep it simple. Okay, so you won't have a mind that is obscured with ignorance, that is obscured with selfishness, that is obscured with self-cherishing thoughts. Those minds are eliminated, and your mind will be full of love, pure, boundless, immeasurable love, compassion, joy, and equanimity. And that's what the four immeasurables are. We will talk about it later. Okay, so to start any session, it's important to have a good posture, have a very strong motivation, intention, and then we will be doing the practices to neutralize the mind and to focus it. Okay, and for that we will just do the practice. Okay, but I just wanted to give you an introduction, okay, of what we will do. And so to be able to create a common ground, we will be actually using a document that I also have shared in Google Classroom, which is a document that can help us to create a common ground of generating a good intention together. Okay, so I will share it, and then if you like it, you can use it in your future practices throughout the week. Okay. Okay, so I will open it.
You have share permissions.
I have it. I have the share.
You can share if you like.
Yeah, here it is. Okay, so we will start with taking refuge and generating bodhicitta. Okay, so I explained a little bit about what bodhicitta is. Taking refuge, if you have done some Buddhist courses before, you might know this already, but for those that don't, what we mean by refuge is that we take guidance, we take protection, we take inspiration from what we call the three jewels, or the three sublime rare ones. Yeah, they have different names, but what do they mean? Well, first we take refuge in the Buddha, who is the teacher, the Dharma, that is the Buddha's teachings, and the Sangha, which are the spiritual community. Okay, so to generate an interesting intention, that's what we normally do. We combine these taking refuge from the three jewels and generating bodhicitta. Okay, so then we to enhance the practice of expanding our hearts, we do the four immeasurables. Okay, so today we will just read them. Yeah, we will just read them. Okay, and then from next week, what we will do is that we will talk about them and we will actually meditate on them too. Okay, right? So the four immeasurables, to give you an introduction, are so something immeasurable is something that doesn't have measure, something that doesn't have limit. Yeah, okay. So they are, the first one, it talks about immeasurable love. The second one, it talks about immeasurable compassion. The third one, it talks about immeasurable joy. And the fourth one, it talks about immeasurable equanimity. Okay, so boundless, a boundless heart. Okay, so today we will just recite this, and we will start by doing a meditation on concentration. Then we'll have a discussion, and then we will do another meditation, more reflective meditation on how we can transform the mind. Yeah, and from next week we will do something very similar. We will do the meditation of concentration. We'll have a discussion on the immeasurable equanimity, because even though here they are presented as immeasurable love first, Lama Zopa Rinpoche, which is the spiritual director of the FBMT, suggests us that we normally start with immeasurable equanimity. Okay, so we will read them in that order, but from next week, when we discuss them and meditate on them, we will start from immeasurable equanimity. Okay, and then for the following weeks, we will cover the last three, because we have more. We have four more sessions together. So I hope the order is clear, and I hope that the structure is clear. Okay. Okay, so let's begin. So as we talked about, yeah, let's begin with our first meditation. I'm trying to focus and calm the mind. And for that, as I explained, first thing is that we take a good posture. So your back is nice and straight, your shoulders are back and down. And then we try to readjust our motivation. So it's an extremely altruistic one. Because if our intentions are altruistic and loving and wholesome, then the results from those intentions are going to be positive. Right? So you want to open your eyes, and if you would like to join us on taking refuge and generating bodhicitta, we will recite that verse in English 3 times. I take refuge until I'm enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my merits of generosity and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit transmigratory beings. I take refuge until I'm enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my merits of generosity and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit transmigratory beings. I take refuge until I'm enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my merits of generosity and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit transmigratory beings. So let's just read the four immeasurables in the order that they are presented. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. Just pause there for a moment and reflect on that. That verse is talking about immeasurable love. The second verse, may all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. And pause. And that verse is talking about immeasurable compassion. Reflect on that. The third verse, May all sentient beings never be separated from the happiness that knows no suffering. That verse is talking about immeasurable joy. Reflect on that. And the last verse. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free of attachment and hatred for those held close and distant. So, with that, we have fulfilled the aspect of generating a strong altruistic intention for the practice. So, now let's move on to actually the meditation for concentrating the mind. So, to begin with, try to become very present. So, what I would like you to try to do is put to aside any sort of worries of the past or projections into the future. Try to put all that to aside, park it somewhere to aside. You can come back to them later, but for now, we will try to remain present, relax, and focus and calm the mind. So, like that, consciously put to aside everything that doesn't belong to the present. And then bring your whole awareness, your whole mind, bring it inside, bring it into the sphere of the body, pull it in. So if the mind is normally distracted with external objects for the day, now we cut those sort of distractions and we bring the mind in. Like as if you would be a kite that is always fluffing around the sky. Well, now no more fluffing. Bring the kite inside, pull it in. So if your body's right there, sitting, breathing, connect with that. Then the idea here is that we bring the mind into an experience of observing the body breathing right there where you are. So allow your body to breathe naturally. Just allow your body to breathe. With your mind, just observe your body breathing. Stay present. And stay observant. With your mind, just observe your body breathing. Just remain as a mere observer. So then, to be able to remain present, observant, and mindful, we can use a technique that is called neutralizing the mind. And for that, we use deep breathing. And what we're trying to neutralize the mind from, those two main obstacles that I mentioned already, distraction and forgetfulness. So by breathing in deeply, we try to avert the forgetfulness, the foggy, tired mind. Okay, so now let's try it. Breathe in deeply. Breathe in fully. Try to push the breath so you can breathe from the bottom of your lungs. And when you continue breathing in deeply, what you think is that you are re-energizing your body and mind. Breathe in deeply and think that you are metabolizing your body and mind. And so like that, we are trying to remove the drowsiness, the kind of like sleepy, groggy mind. So breathe in and try to wake up your mind. Invite luminosity. Invite freshness and lucidity. Breathe in fully and invite these things into your experience. Now, while you continue breathing in this way, now we focus more on the exhalations. You breathe in deeply, and then you breathe out slowly. You breathe in fully. You breathe out slowly. And with each exhalation, you're trying to relax. Relax your body. Relax your shoulders. Relax your back. Breathing fully, and with the next exhalations, relax your chest. Lift your attention, and with the next exhalations, relax your facial expression. Relax your forehead. Relax the area between your eyebrows. Relax your eyes, your cheeks, your jaw, mouth, and tongue. Relax. Continue exhaling slowly and completely. Try to relax and release your mind. Background noise, you can breathe it out. The background noise in your mind, the dialogue or stories. Just be willing to breathe them out, and like that, release the distraction. So, like this, we use the deep breathing to neutralize the mind from these two obstacles. Okay. So, like that, take a last deep breath. And now feeling more serene and at ease. Allow your body to find its natural rhythm of breath. And now, with a focused yet relaxed mind, bring your awareness to your abdomen. If you're new to the practice, you can place one of your hands at your abdomen and feel the movements at your abdomen while you naturally breathe in and while you naturally breathe out. And for the next 7 minutes, we'll try to concentrate whole attention in observing these movements. Okay, so place your whole mind there at your abdomen, and with mindfulness, observe every single movement at your abdomen while you breathe in, every single movement at your abdomen while you breathe out. And just observe that, okay? So your mind might wander. The idea here is that you quickly identify if you have become distracted, and if you have, you bring the mind back to the abdomen. And what you do is you try to breathe out the distraction. You try to release it and let it go. You come back to the abdomen. Remember, you can park to a side anything and everything that doesn't belong to the present moment, or that is not useful or constructive or supported for your practice. Come back to your abdomen. So try to apply introspection. Watch what your mind is doing. Try to be vigilant. Pay attention. But don't get too tight, uptight. Yeah? So this is a relaxed yet focused mind. So relax and observe your abdomen with curiosity. Okay, so let's take a few deep breaths. Let's take a last deep breath. And fully open your eyes. And if you need to stretch a little bit, even if you need to stand up a little bit to stretch your legs, it's okay to do so. Okay, so that practice was of 20 minutes, actually, 21 or something like that. Okay, so this is the kind of practice that it will be really good if you can continue throughout the week. And as I said, the instructions for you to refer to and have the practice more fresh is in Google Classroom. Okay, and this is a very simple practice that can help us little by little to try to develop a more concentrated mind. Yeah, because we know we know that when we get distracted, when we get neurotic, yeah, it's just so unpleasurable. Yeah? It's just so confusing. The mind becomes very heavy, very unclear. Yeah, so this is what I call, basic mental hygiene. Yeah, we do a lot of bodily hygiene in our lives. We wash this, we wash that, and if it's organic, better. Organic shampoo and organic toothpaste and all the things. But we don't do enough mental hygiene. Yeah. So this practice gives us a very strong foundation to try to have more clarity. So I know that at the beginning you might be, flashed with thoughts, but little by little, those moments of silence, of tranquility, will become, more extended and extending and prolonged. And that's the idea. We try to develop the mind in a way that we can control the mind rather than the mind being wild, like a wild elephant that could be very destructive. Yeah. So the idea is here we're taking baby steps to try to develop a more resilient and stable mind. Okay. Okay. So that's the first part of the session covered. Now, during the second part of the session is to have a little bit of a discussion, and then we will have a reflection and a meditation. So the discussion here will be focusing on transforming the mind, transforming the mind. Okay, so the mind in Tibetan Buddhism, interestingly enough, okay, is a phenomenon that is formless, colorless, and is in the nature of experience. Another synonyms for mind are consciousness, awareness, cognition. Probably Shanti has other words, but maybe that will be that's okay. Okay, so the mind, it's not just this kind of thing that just thinks and give us trouble. Okay, but the mind in Tibetan Buddhism is related with the heart, the spiritual heart. Yeah, the mind feels. Yeah, the mind can perceive things, of course, and can identify them. Has the sort of like discrimination, yeah, of identifying objects, different objects. Yeah, of course can do that. Of course can analyze and can have reasoning and can have knowledge. Yeah, all the things. But in Tibetan Buddhism, it has this sense of being able to experience things. So the mind feels. Okay, so it's not that the mind feels, but the mind is in the nature of experience, which means that it feels. Yeah, so feelings and emotions are part of the mind in Tibetan Buddhism. And if we think about it, yeah, just to give you an example of how you can easily relate to this, yeah, as I said at the beginning, the mind, it's uh, colorless and formless. Yeah, so it doesn't have a material entity to it. Yeah? Of course, is related and dependable on the body, sure, and the body is dependable and related on the mind. Yeah, but the mind is in the nature of consciousness. Yeah, okay. So the mind has different objects of experience. Yeah, and one of its objects are feelings and emotions. Yeah, because if you think of a feeling like, just whatever feeling that you might have maybe right now, yeah, yeah, the feelings that we have, yeah, you cannot kind of like pinpoint them where they are. Okay, okay. So um, feelings and emotions and other objects of the mind, like intentions or ideas or thoughts or dreams, yeah, they're not tangible. They're not tangible. Yeah, so that's why that's an easy way to understand or relate them, that they are an object of the mind. Yeah, the body has other objects. Yeah, the body relates with our environment and with sensorial objects of the five senses. Right, the body also feels. Yeah, okay, um, but the relationship with body and mind is such, right, that when we talk particularly about emotions, then we're talking about, these objects being of the mind. And I hope that you can understand that. We can go into detail, but that's not a discussion of this particular course. Okay. So when we talk about transforming the mind, we're talking about really transforming your heart. It's like transforming not only the way that you think, but the way that you feel. Okay, okay. So, so like the body, and the Olympics, they just finished in Tokyo. Yeah, I don't know if you followed them. I actually didn't, but I know. I think I saw like one video or something like that about gymnastics, because they do this amazing like flips and any jumps, and anyway, they just do extraordinary things with the bodies. Some of those athletes. But if you think about it, these are years and years of thorough, like bodily training on a particular, on a particular sport, right? But it's thorough, like meticulous, and like dedicated years of practice. Yeah. Okay. Well, in Tibetan Buddhism, we say you can train your mind in the same way. Yeah? Your mind has amazing potential. We just have to unlock it, recognize it, and train it. And your mind can be as amazing, or even like way more amazing, than any of those gymnastics. Yeah. So, because the mind doesn't have any sort of like material kind of entity to it, the mind can be kind of like even limitless. Okay, the potential of the mind is limitless. Okay, so the mind can be developed in a way, okay, that it's beyond our comprehension right now. Okay, but it has that potential. Okay, and so that's what we try to understand using Tibetan Buddhism. Okay, Tibetan Buddhism is all about the mind and training the mind and educating the mind. Okay, because we see that happiness and suffering, they come from this internal experience, okay, rather than external. Okay, so what does it mean to transform the mind? Well, just to be very practical, here we are saying that your mind has power. Your mind can see a situation, yeah, in a particular way if you train it to do so. Okay, so just to give you an example, let's just say that I don't know. Let's just say that there's someone that doesn't it's not quite polite to you. I don't know. You just I don't know. You're kind of trying to I don't know. You're trying to queue. Here in New Zealand, we have a lot of people queuing in the supermarkets because of the lockdown. Yeah, there's a lot of queuing going on. I know that in India there's a lot of queuing also. Or let's just put a random kind of like world known example. Yeah, you're queuing and somebody pushes you, and they kind of like bump into you, and they just like they just go ahead and they just go in front of you. Yeah, and so here what we're saying is that of course you can just become reactive, as you have done probably with habit, all your life. You can become reactive and angry and anxious or like resentful or whatever it is. Yeah, I'm just giving a random example. Yeah, or you can develop your inner resilience and actually transform the way that you see that situation. And that requires training. So here we're saying that you have a choice. When training your mind and transforming it, you have a choice. Instead of being reactive, now you choose of being responsive. Okay. So instead of reacting with anger and hostility as we normally do, you take a few deep breaths, you try to step back, and you try to see that situation in a different light. You try to bring to the occasion wisdom or compassion or patience or equanimity or whatever it is that you would like to develop. Okay? So let's go back to the example. Yeah, somebody kind of like, butts in and, in front of you, and they just carry on as if nothing happened. And you're like, I've been queuing here for ages, you just take over. So in that situation, you can remember that you have a choice, that you don't have to always go into the negative patterns that we normally do. You can take a few deep breaths, and you can remember that you have a choice. So with whatever particular situation you might be confronted with, you can choose, okay, right now, instead of getting angry, I will use the antidote, which is patience. And you try to practice patience, and you try to practice patience, and you try to practice patience. If you feel that you are becoming really judgmental with a person, just seeing them as like horrible, and so your compassion is out of the window, you can step back, take a few breaths, choose. Yeah, you remember, it's all about choice. Transforming your mind is all about remembering your choices, and you might choose to practice compassion, thinking, well, no, no, I feel for this person that they don't have the awareness that there's a cue behind. You can do your own reasoning and wish them to be free of whatever suffering they have. You see? So interestingly enough, when we talk about transforming the mind, we will talk more about it. This is just an introduction. Yeah. When we talk about transforming the mind, is that you are starting to empower yourself. And so each situation that is presented in your life, instead of going through the habitual patterns of becoming negative, destructive, and with animosity, hostility, you choose something else. You choose something that is wholesome. You choose whatever you would like to learn and develop and then perfect. You see? So that's very inspiring. That's extremely inspiring. Because what happens is that if you can meet any sort of challenging situation with that attitude, It's all about attitude. With that attitude, of that, you will transform it. Instead of a problem, you transform it into a possibility for inner growth, inner transformation, to develop your wisdom, to develop your compassion. If you change the label and you transform it, and then, so first you transform the way that you think about it, and then the way that you feel about it. If you can do that with every single challenging situation that you might be exposed to, then it's like magic, because then you will never have a problem. You see? Very interesting. Very interesting, because you're starting to transform every single situation in a possibility, opportunity, a challenge, a lesson. Yeah. So it's just very, very, the mind is incredible. If we train it, yeah, we start talking the language of wisdom within yourself, the language of wisdom of the mind. Okay. The mind talks different languages. Some of them are very toxic. Yeah. I'm talking about not like actual linguistic language, but internal languages. Yeah. We have self-destructive languages. We have self-realizing ones. We have like compassion, self-compassion or not, But here you're starting to learn a different language, internal language of wisdom, of self-development, of mind transformation, heart transformation. Thoughts and the feelings. Okay. So for this week, I would like you to, as best as your ability, as best as your time frame and your resources, whatever it is, life experiences, I would like you to, if you can continue that practice that we did at the beginning, the calming the mind, because that will give you a very fertile ground to do this work, because you will have more self-awareness and opportunity for self-regulation, because transforming the mind is about self-regulation, right? And then throughout your daily life, so you will be having the formal practice, and I suggest in the mornings, because your mind and body are fresh and are rested. Okay, so you might need to change a little bit your schedule, your itinerary of the day, and maybe wake up a little bit early and sit 20 minutes based on that structure that I gave you, and that is in Google Classroom. And then throughout the day, I will highly, highly recommend you to start paying attention to challenging situations and seeing them as an opportunity. And try it out with whatever it is. Just try it out. Go there and take risks and internal risks, and try it out. And taste, get a taste. Get a taste of what really, is your mind is about, and the ability for it to change and transform. Okay. So that's the homework for this week. I also in Google Classroom put a really nice article on mind transformation from Lama Zopa Rinpoche, which is the director of the FMT. It's a bit long, but you can just read it a little bit, 2 or 3 pages each day throughout the week. Okay. And now let's finish with a meditation. Okay, so the first meditation that we did is about concentrating the mind. Then we did a little bit of discussion, and then we do a second meditation that is more a reflection or analytical meditation to try to generate some insights. Okay, so analytical meditations are about having an experience of a concept, because if not, concepts are kind of like abstract. But here we're trying to really bring it into the heart. Okay. So particularly, we will talk. I will guide this second meditation with an example that you will choose on transforming the mind. Okay. So remember, every single session that we will have together will have these 3 components of calm, abiding, meditation, calming the mind, a discussion, and then a reflection. And then from next week, the discussions and the reflections will be based on the 4 immeasurables. Okay, so again, we take a good posture. So try to Position your body so you can have a nice straight back. Pull your shoulders back and down and open your chest. Allow your eyes to just open just a little bit. They're not completely closed, so you don't fall into the danger of falling asleep. Well, at least for me here in New Zealand, it's going to be 8 p.m. Get comfy. Take a few nice deep breaths. Really nice deep breaths. Breathe in, replenish. Breathe out, relax. So just readjusting our motivation, remembering that we're doing this practice so we can develop our hearts. Then we can be of best benefit to all beings. So for this meditation, this reflection, I'd like you to choose a challenging situation that you might be having in your daily life. Just one. Just try to choose one that you're willing to work with at the moment. Something that you can manage at the moment. So try to have the situation very clear. And then particularly for now, try to see if you can identify what is the main issue there. Why is this situation upsetting you? So if you can, try to make it really concise. Like if you can concise it all the way to just having one bullet point. It's not a whole novel, just try to identify very clear what is the main issue. Boil it down and boil it down and boil it down. Okay. So hopefully you have it super clear. Put that to aside. Now If you could just visualize or create a parallel reality of that situation in a way that you would like it to be. Yeah? So, given that issue that you have, yeah, if you could find the best solution, what would that be? Just don't think if it would be possible or not, but how would you like that situation to be? If that situation would be resolved, how would it look like? How would you feel if that new reality would exist? Again, try to visualize very clear what would be the ideal outcome of that situation for you. Okay, so again, put that thought to a side. Now, next, bring back the issue, the one that you put to a side in the first place, bring that one back. And now, using your wisdom and your creativity, try to see what you can do about it, how you can transform it, so you can create the causes for that desirable outcome that you just envisioned. Maybe just try to have clear 3 bullet points. How can you transform it with the discussion that we had already? What sort of inner transformation of the way of seeing it and feeling about it you could put in place right now? Maybe just start with 1 bullet point. Could you transform that situation to begin with? See if there's something regarding your emotions that you need to transform. Is there any way that you can see that situation or the person involved with different eyes? Maybe as a teacher that is teaching you something in particular, what could that be? What do you need to develop? And so lastly, are you willing? Are you willing to try to put these things in place. So this becomes more tangible. Are you willing to take that risk of doing this inner work to try to heal that situation? The healing comes from your heart. So here we're learning to create our own medicine. We're trying to commit to take it. You're becoming your own healer. So what are you willing to do in a practical way within yourself, inside? Doesn't need to necessarily have external actions. It's more an internal attitude. What are you willing to transform within yourself regarding that situation, regarding the way that you see it? How can you label it differently? Okay. So try to make some mental points. Maybe you might need to write some things down. Up to you, however way you work. Huh? Okay, so let's stop that meditation. Let's take a few deep breaths. Let's take a last deep breath. Okay, and we come back to the group. We're almost done. So I hope things were clear. But we have just maybe 1 or 2 minutes for. Is there any question from the group that we have already? No? Okay. No, we're clear. We're good.
Venerable, I just had a question that why would one do calm abiding meditation? What is the exact purpose in our path to enlightenment? What is the main reason we do it? Apart from calming the mind, is there
Yeah.
some real reason, intention behind doing that practice?
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, of course. The practice of calm abiding or shamatha, yeah. The idea is to make make as if we could make it, but to develop. So to develop a very stable mind, Shanti, because these practices of calm abiding and special insight, yeah, and during the discussion, I only mentioned insight, yeah, but the practice of special insight is a practice where we develop our wisdom, and particularly the wisdom that realizes reality, yeah, the lack of any sort of inherent existence, right? So, so in Tibetan Buddhism, we try to combine these two practices of a very stable mind that can actually hold, yeah, many realizations of the Lam Rim. So all the realizations of the Lam Rim is the graduated path towards enlightenment. So all the realizations of the Lam Rim rely on having a very calm mind, but particularly when we talk about vipassana or special insight, is we need this calm abiding, this mind that doesn't get distracted or disturbed for a long period of time, to be able to hold that realization of of emptiness, or or any other realization along the path, but particularly of emptiness, without distraction or disturbance. So the main in the Mahayana, because shamatha is a practice that is practiced by other traditions, but in the Mahayana, the main aim of concentration to develop shamatha or calm abiding is to be able to realize emptiness directly, because you will only be able to have that very sharpness of the mind if your mind is calm and clear enough to sustain that meditation. So they normally talk about if there's a dark room, which probably is an analogy of ignorance. Yeah, it's a dark room, and you light a candle. Yeah, and there's, let's just say that there's on inside that room, and there's a wall, and there's some writing on the wall, and you would like to read it, right? So you need the light of wisdom to actually kind of read it. But if the wick of the lamp is very unstable, you won't be able to read that wall properly. Do you see what I mean? So you not only the wick of the lamp has to be very bright, but it has to be very stable for you to be able to sustain that analysis or that logic and reasoning. Yeah, while you try to realize emptiness in particular. Yeah. Does that make sense, Shanti? Does it bring any sort of extra clarity?
Yes. Yes, Venerable. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So then at the end, what we normally do is that we dedicate the merits, what we call dedication. So what does it mean? Well, all the positive potential that we created individually, each one of you, whatever you are in the world, and as a group, we try to share it. We try to share it into the world. And so for this particular occasion, because of COVID as well, I thought of using a dedication practice that it was composed by an Indian master called Shantideva, and it's quite beautiful. And by the way, is His Holiness His Holiness most one of his most how to say that I guess favorite dedication prayers. Okay, so I will share it, and again, if you would like to join us, you're most welcome. I also share it in Google Classroom, so if you like it, you will be able to access it there. Okay. So what we do, so with the practices in the future for this week, I would suggest you to do your meditation in the mornings, then you do your mindful transforming development throughout the day, and at night you might want to dedicate the merits using this dedication, or you might want also to use this dedication to dedicate the merits after your morning practice. Up to you. You can dedicate as much as you can. Okay. So let's do this dedication together. So may all beings everywhere, plagued by sufferings of body and mind, obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtue of my merits. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled with a mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored on finding repose. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the fallen find hope, constant happiness and prosperity. May they be timely rains and bountiful harvests. May all medicines be effective and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be free from their ailments. Whatever diseases there are in the world, may they never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid, and those bound be freed. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting each other. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then, may to remain to dispel the misery of the world. And so lastly, we also normally we dedicate the merits for the long, healthy, and stable life of our teachers, these very special beings that teach us the mind training, the Dharma, so we can develop So it's good for us to pray for them. And so it's also in it's part of the daily practice, daily prayers that I also share in Google Classroom, okay, if you would like to use them too. So we dedicate for His Holiness Dalai Lama in English, incomparably kind and supreme Tenzin Gyatso, the wish-granting, wish-fulfilling true source of every single benefit and happiness in this world. May you have a long life, and may all your holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. You who uphold the subterraneous moral way, who serve as a bountiful bearer of all, sustaining, preserving, and spreading Manjana's victorious doctrine, who masterfully accomplish magnificent prayers, honor, and three jewels, Savior of myself and others, your disciples, please live long. So this is a long life prayer for Lama Zopa Rinpoche, who is the director of the FBMT. Okay, so thank you very much, everyone. Sorry, I went a little bit
Thank you,
over.
Venerable, and all of you. See you at the same time next week, Wednesday. And you can look at your homework in the classroom, Google Classroom.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.